Hello, welcome to a brand new episode of Look Forward. I'm your host Jay. I'm here with my co-host Brad.
What an exciting week this week. We got
buddy.
presidential nominees out here fucking praying for the collapse of the American economy. We got people just calling for political assassinations, just like using plain language. It's a crazy fucking week. The Epstein list dropped.
Yeah,
all sorts of stuff going on.
Yeah, look, it's wild. But before we get there, Brad and I almost started a little bit of a debate between each other before I hit record. So I want to restart this debate because we are on opposite sides of a very, very serious issue. Brad, you believe that you know what? I'm not. Don't let me speak for you. What is your position on debating in 2024?
So we were talking about how, people think that, so like Joe Biden's campaign started this week, right? And he made headlines, because he gave a couple of campaign speeches, one of which he, dropped or came close to dropping an F-bomb when he almost called Trump a sick fuck, but he paused before he said the F word, and that made a lot of news. And me and Jay both agree that bit of that moment was a bit of performance from Joe Biden. Like, he absolutely knew what he was doing when he did that. And we were just making fun of the fact that people love to, throw this Joe Biden's an idiot, line at him. He's a brain-addled old man moron. And when he's actually much more smart and much more wily than you give him credit for. And we were comparing that to Trump, who said all sorts of crazy shit over the past week. And we'll get into one thing in particular a little bit later on in the show. But Jay said, I can't wait till these two debate and Joe Biden, runs circles around him and calls him out to his face. But hey, like, you're telling me that I'm a fucking old man who doesn't know what he's saying. Like, you're out here saying, whatever crazy dumb shit Trump says between now and the election that can fire back. And I told Jay, I think my exact words to you were, it's cute that you think that there's going to be a debate between the two of them in 2024.
All right, so and your stance, by the way, just to clarify, your stance is not like Trump's not going to get the nomination or blah, blah, blah. No, your stance is that he gets the nomination, he's just not going to debate.
Yeah, he's not going to debate. 100%.
I think that's crazy. I think
it's crazy too. I think it's crazy also, but the whole no debate strategy has been working out really well for him over the last couple of months. Yeah. And a debate can only serve to harm him. It is much better for him to go to his safe spaces, to his safe hosts that he knows that he'll get softball questions from and kind of bloviate about his nonsense with them, than it is to get up in a live fire environment with a moderator that he can't control, with an opponent that he can't control, being how he is. A debate can only hurt him with your average voter.
Okay.
And so there's no way that he does it. There's no way.
Okay, here's the thing. I'm going into this conversation under the thought process that he can't help himself. And like a moment of trying to like embarrass Joe Biden, or a moment to kind of rage at Joe Biden or get some like smart aleck fucking lines off and shit like that, he can't pass up. However, I will admit this. You drive a hard bargain, because I think you might actually be right. As I think about it, like,
well, I mean,
he might not. Actually,
your point is refuted. I mean, Trump doesn't like Ron DeSantis. Trump doesn't like Nikki Haley. You don't think he wants to get up on a debate stage?
Yeah.
Chris Christie? Like, you don't think he wants to go up on a debate stage and fucking tell Chris Christie's a fat fuck to his face? Yeah. Come on, like if it was all about just getting one up over somebody, then he would do it. You know what I mean? He would be doing it now. But I also think that he's going to try to use the debate. Like, one of the reasons that he hasn't debated the Republicans is because, like, he's trying to run this line like, oh, like, they're so far beneath me. Like, I don't even need to waste my time with these people. Right. And I could see him trying to do the same thing with Joe Biden. Like, why do I need to debate Joe Biden? Clearly, I'm a better option than Joe Biden.
Right. And that's, like, in all honesty, that's the part to me that is the most likely reason for him to debate. Because I think, like, if you look at the numbers now, like, there's look, polling right now is useless. They're all Trump is up in New Hampshire.
Don't put much stock into it. Yeah,
it's nonsense, right? It means nothing. I think as the polls tighten, and they will, right? That's inevitable. It should be a blowout, but it will be inevitable that polls will tighten. I think he's going to be kind of forced to try to make his case, right? At the same time, you're right. Like, not debating has worked out really well for him. So, I'm sticking with it. I'm sticking with my thought process that he can't help himself, right? The idea of being on television and being in front of that crowd and trying to score points on this guy that he lost to, he's not going to be able to pass up. That being said, I could see, and here's where I'll give you a Tip O'Neill, level compromise.
Mm-hmm.
You get one debate instead of three. Right.
So I could see that, but I think it's only,
I think you get one.
Only if he gets to pick who the moderator is. Because I think that's another thing that scares him as well. Because he doesn't like going up against these liberal media moderators who are so mean to me and so unfair, and they treat me so bad compared to Joe Biden. Like he doesn't want like fucking Kristen Welker up there. Like,
no, he don't want anybody with a brain. He'll want Sean Hannity. Right.
Yeah, that's exactly who I was going to say. Like, give me Sean Hannity, or we're not debating. And Joe Biden's like, "Fuck you." Well, like, obviously, like he'd be like, "No, I'm not fucking going to a debate with Sean Hannity." So I can still give me a fucking handicap match. Like, get out of here.
Right? It's a 2-1 debate. Get the fuck out of here. No, absolutely not. By the way, if Sean Hannity gets to be the moderator, if for some bizarre reason, and I can't imagine the Biden team would agree to it, but if for some reason Trump's like, I want Sean Hannity or there's no debate, and Biden was like, all right, cool, we'll let Sean Hannity be the moderator, I think there should be a ruling that at any point Joe Biden gets to tag in Gavin Newsom and make it in this handicap match. Tags him in. Gavin Newsom comes in, fucks up both of those guys at the same time, and he tags Biden back in. Yeah.
Not even to debate, by the way. Like, tags in Gavin Newsom, and all Gavin Newsom does is like punch Sean Hannity in the face. Like, you're gonna ask fucking normal questions, you piece of shit.
Right. It'll be like, now back to the regular show. Like, all right, that hurt a lot. Like, it's a wild notion that, in all honesty, we have no idea whether or not we're going to have presidential debates. Like, that's a really crazy,
because there's no rule saying that you have to. Like there's no. It's not like you're forced to do it. And what I also hope that
and by the way, if he decides that he doesn't want to debate, that will be the argument from him and Republicans. Well, there's no rule about it, as if they give a fuck about rules. By the way, but they'll be like, well, there's no rule about it.
And if Trump does not debate, I'm torn, because like on one hand, I would say to like, so like what I can see is like Trump's like, I'm not debating, but of course like RFK is like, oh, come debate, and like he'll fucking raise his hand and he'll want to get in the ring with Joe Biden. And I kind of don't want Joe Biden to do that, but then again, like it's still good to debates are still good for messaging, like to get your message out there and have a contrasting view like there next to you to be able to balance it against. Like they're useful for that. But it's also not really useful giving RFK any elevation anyway.
No, and it's actually, because he's such an anti-vaxxer psycho, it's actually dangerous. Right? So like it's legitimate. Like he's not just like, oh, he's a bumblefuck moron. He is. But he also believes and spouts things that are actually getting people killed. So yeah, probably
if you're you listener listening, hit us up in the Discord and let us know if you can find what the thresholds are for the presidential debate to see like if you can get in, because I'm just curious if Kennedy, what he would have to do to even qualify to be able to get up on a debate stage.
Probably my guess is he probably wouldn't qualify.
I would assume not as well, but who the fuck knows? There's gonna be enough crazy people out there. I mean, there's already enough crazy people answering polling in insane ways right now, but take it with a grain of salt. So
yeah. Oh boy. All right, so let's jump right into it. This first story is all you, sir.
Yeah. So the looming deadline on government spending is coming up again, because if you recall, a few months back in November, they kicked the can down the road to January just to avoid a government shutdown in the dawn of Mike Johnson's speakership. But he actually has come to an agreement with Chuck Schumer on a spending deal that would pass the Senate and would avert a government shutdown. Now, hearing these numbers kind of makes my stomach churn still to this day, because $886 billion have been earmarked for defense spending, and then literally $772 billion for everything that's not defense, which is insane. Like, I stand on my fucking progressive soapbox once again to ask, how the hell are we spending nearly $1 trillion a year in defense spending? But that's besides the point. That's besides the point. The point is that this deal that Mike Johnson has agreed to with Chuck Schumer is basically the same deal that Kevin McCarthy negotiated with Joe Biden back in May of last year to avoid the debt ceiling crisis, and is the thing that got him kicked out of the speakership and now not even in Congress anymore, is Kevin McCarthy, because of this very deal. And Mike Johnson is trying to sell the same deal to House Republicans. You'll be shocked to learn that the Freedom Caucus loonies are not too pleased about this turn of events.
Look, I mean, at least they're consistent. I'm actually surprised that they're not just taking this and being like, oh yeah, no, it's totally different, right? Like, to be honest, like, that's the most shocking part of the story. It's not shocking that he's using the same method that was used before, because they don't have any other options.
Yeah,
they just simply don't.
And here's the best thing, because like Johnson's trying, like, it's so funny, and this is where Mike Johnson's inexperience comes into play. So like, he's trying to placate the Freedom Caucus people by saying, no, don't worry, the stuff that you guys want, we'll just attach it in riders, and we'll get that stuff on the bill. Not understanding, or maybe he does understand, he's just trying to fool the dumbest people in Congress, that you can attach that stuff as amendments and stuff like that if you want to, but then that bill's not going to get past the Senate. Like, you are not going to have the Senate voting on a bill that has all these like Republican riders of things like cutting out, Ukraine funding and things of that nature that the Freedom Caucus doesn't want, that the Senate does want. And not just Senate Democrats, by the way, like Senate Republicans as well. Like this spending package that has been tentatively agreed to has the support of like 85% of the entire Senate, which means that it has the support of like 70% of all the Republicans in the Senate.
Yeah. Look, best of luck. It'll be interesting. Will they stick to their guns? Right? Will they stick to their guns and be like, you try to pass this shit, you get it passed, you're done.
What, and have another fucking speaker fight at the beginning of a year? Coming off of a year, by the way. Yeah. Like this shit doesn't exist in a vacuum. Like there's been a lot of hay made in the past couple of weeks about how the past year's Congress is literally, and I'm not using hyperbole when I say this, but literally one of the least productive Congresses in the history of the country, and specifically because of the House, and specifically because they're run by Republicans who don't know how to govern, don't have any interest in governing, are stricken with infighting, which is dominating most of their fucking time, are trying to half impeach Joe Biden now, and that's not working out so great. So now they're going to shift to Ali Mayorkas, who's the Secretary of Homeland Security, maybe, because they just got to impeach somebody. By the way, if they do impeach Mayorkas because they don't like his border policy, that would be a gross misuse of the impeachment clause. No one's talking about that in the media, which really bothers me. But again, like, you can't impeach somebody just because you don't like their policy. There's literally reasons for impeachment laid out. Yeah, like they have to commit a crime outside of the purview, or using their office, but outside of their purview of their normal responsibilities. If you don't like someone's policy, that's what elections are for. Like, you don't have to you don't impeach somebody because you don't like a policy that they have. That's insane.
Yeah, but again, it makes sense that you would impeach somebody. From a Republican perspective, it would make sense that you would impeach somebody for a policy you don't like, because you in fact lack policies, right? Like, you don't have their policy response to the border is close the borders. It's not really a policy, guys. Like, it's not a policy. It's a childlike reaction to a problem. A policy generally has a level of nuance and understanding of the situation. Not go, close border now, done. Like, that's not, that's a caveman. That's a caveman response. It's not an actual policy. So, but they're basing that policy on the feelings of the least educated of their constituents, right? Like, you watch any of these videos, any of these interviews, they're like, just close the border. And so that's their policy. Because they're like, I don't know, man. Like, if we try to say, well, you have to close the border and, you know, let's say they close the border, right? Close the border, and then you have, you know, you're accepting so many refugees, and the refugee program maybe has a lot more people that we let in. We do, you know, better background checks and stuff like that. We talk about, you know, how we're going to handle if people have natural disasters for refugees or war refugees and things like that. Expanding the refugee program. You know, helping people who are, you know, coming from countries, you know, war-torn or whatever. All of those kind of situations, and just regular, outside of refugees, just regular levels of immigration, right? That are not lopsided to letting in a bunch of people who fly in from Europe versus people coming in from the South, right? Let's get real, that this is a real thing, right? 50% of the people who stayed in this country illegally fly in from other countries and just overstay their welcome. I know white middle America conservatives don't like to think about that, but it isn't all the brown people coming from the southern border that are filling this country up to the point that you can't deal with it, right? Which is not true, by the way. All those like, hey, why is all these like weird talking white people? They're from Europe, dude. Like, they flew here, right? Like, that's why they're there. So they just overstay their welcome. Oh, well, I was supposed to leave in a month. I'm not gonna. Right? And there's nobody there grabbing them and throwing them out. So, but you would have to have an entire policy based on this. And that policy takes nuance, and it takes actual policy writers, and it takes time. But instead they respond like troglodytes, which is close the border. That's it.
Yeah.
They don't know.
And if you want just a very boiled down snapshot of how stupid this spending fight is, our friend of the show, Marjorie Taylor Greene, is opposing this spending bill under Mike Johnson, even though she supported the same spending bill under Kevin McCarthy because she was a McCarthy ally. But somehow the same bill, actually, technically, the Republican bill, according to them, has less spending than the bill that McCarthy cut. And somehow she's not in support of it. The discrepancy between so the House Republicans say that, oh, we're doing $704 billion in non-defense spending, and the Democrats are saying it's actually 772 because there was a side agreement between McCarthy and Joe Biden that had a $69 billion price tag attached to it as part of the debt ceiling deal. So technically, like this spending bill that Mike Johnson's putting forward is a cut from the McCarthy bill. Yet somehow Marjorie Taylor Greene's like, oh no, I'm not supporting this. But she supported a bigger spending bill under McCarthy. Make it make sense, Jay. I can't make it make sense.
Well, she's still trying to cozy up to that side of the party, which makes no sense because you're part of the nut party. Like you're part of the nut team. Like, stop trying to get over. Look, I think McCarthy is a piece of shit, but like he lives at least somewhat on the logic side of the Republican Party. I mean, it's still a large lack of logic, but on the more logic side, you are over there with Lauren Boebert, right? Like, we'll talk about her later. Like, stop trying to slide over. Like, no one's buying it. No one's buying it. You believe in Jewish space lasers. There's a side of the party for you. It's fucking way over there. Like, get out of here. So no, it doesn't make sense because it doesn't have to make sense because she doesn't make sense. Like, just fundamentally. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
It will be. Apparently now the latest news is that apparently Senate Republicans are like, oh, we could do another short-term spending bill because we can't come to an agreement. I'm just like, okay.
Again.
And again, very poor plotting on the Democrats' part because the last thing that you need is to allow the Democrats to allow this to continue to be kicked down the road, and for this fight to come up again in October when there's an election happening, and again the blame will be pointed to you Republicans. That is one thing that I am glad in all the reporting from all this, for the past several months about government spending, is that no one seems to be taking the bait that this is somehow like a dysfunction of the entire Congress. Like, no, this is Republicans fucking this up. Like, Democrats are completely unified and on board, and most Republicans are actually on board as well. It's just this like small fringe contingency of Republicans that are gumming up the works here.
Which,
so I appreciate the fact that, yeah,
like, and this is true most of the time. Most of the time.
Yeah.
Right? When the eyes of the public are not heavily on Congress about a certain bill, for the most part, you can get a lot of, especially in the Senate, you can get a lot of Republicans go, yeah, I mean, this is like common sense shit. Like, let's just get this done. But when the eyes start getting, when the news is like really harping on a certain topic or something like that, that's when all the crazy starts to happen, right? Most of these guys in Congress, or men and women in Congress, certainly Democrats are far more seemingly logical about this stuff. But Republicans will generally get on board. I mean, look, you saw this in the Obama administration. The reason why Obama got so much done in his second term is because they stopped making it big TV fights. And the second he stopped making it big TV fights, Republicans were like, "Oh, he's looking? Yeah, okay. Well, fucking like, come on, these are logical things." And people were like, "Wow, all this shit's getting passed," because it wasn't fighting on CNN and Fox about it. In his first term, when they were trying desperately to knock him out of the box and not allow him to get reelected, they made public hay about everything. Shit they didn't agree with or shit they did agree with, right? It didn't matter. But once they were like, well, this guy's just going to be in office, let's just get shit done, then all that shit calmed down, right? Like, they just stopped being so oppositional for no reason. So, yeah, it's the same thing. There are people who are a lot more reasonable than you normally see when it comes to like when the news sort of kicks up on this stuff. But then there's the contingent of like the Marjorie Taylor Greens, the Lauren Boeberts, the fucking all those nutbags. They're crazy the whole time because they got into Congress and they don't know shit. So they're just like, oh, the system's corrupt, and it's like, actually, this is just how it works, guys. Like, they're finding out anew how government works, right? So, yeah. It's a lot of their constituents are like that too. All right, let's take a quick break and come right back. All right, next one. This is a great little bit of information. Shocking, and it's only shocking to me.
I'm shocked.
I'm shocked the number's so low, if I'm being honest.
You know what? That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
China spent over $5.5 million, with an M, at Trump properties while he was in office, documents show. The Chinese government and its state-controlled entities spent over $5.5 million at properties owned by Donald Trump while he was in office, the largest total of payments made by any single foreign country known to date. Never forget that the entire time Trump was in office, he was, remember, he was giving it to China, right? With the, our economic war with China. He was really giving it to them. Yeah, meanwhile, he's raking in millions of dollars. If you believe this,
also never forget that he literally had a hotel down the street from the White House.
Correct. And that was on fucking purpose. Those payments, collectively, including millions of dollars from China's embassy in the United States, a state-owned Chinese bank accused by the U.S. Justice Department of helping North Korea evade sanctions, and state-owned Chinese air transit company. According to records from the Trump accounting firm, Mazars USA, that were obtained by the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee. Now, here's the funny thing about this story. They found this out because Republicans were on their crusade to find out whether China was paying Joe Biden based on memes and made up bullshit in their heads, right? They were like, we fucking got him. Let's check into China, see what's happening with Joe Biden. They looked into it, and lo and behold, they're like, oh shit, we did find a president who was getting paid off by China. It was Donald Trump. Scuttle, 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 scuttle. And Democrats were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What is this that you found? That's kind of interesting. Bring it back. Let's take a look at that. And then they found the $5.5 million. So Republicans trying their bullshit only ended up exposing Trump and then trying to hide it. And it got exposed because, of course, it did. Of course.
Yep.
Love it.
Every accusation, Jay. Every accusation.
Not our guy. No, not our guy. He's awesome. Fuck out of here. All right, this story, one of my favorite stories of the week. I have to tell you. Trump says that, he somehow hit Nikki Haley from the left a little bit, which I thought was very funny. So Nikki Haley, as we talked about last week, was like, look, guys, was slavery the main reason for the Civil War? She came out, by the way, this week and said, look, I have a lot of black friends, which is a wild thing to say, dude.
That's how you know. That's how you know she's really up against it when she whips out the I know plenty of black people myself. Yeah.
It's like, oof.
Notice she said growing up she had a lot of black friends. She didn't say they even have black friends now. Like she's just like, when I grew up, like there are tons of black people around.
Yeah, and then by the way, this out of that town, it was terrifying. Like she couldn't wait.
There's a picture of her in the story that you embedded, and it's just so funny. Like not that you can see a lot of people in the picture, but just the fact that they're all white is very hilarious to me, especially as it pertains to this issue.
Yes, well, and I like the guy to her left, or a guy to her right, our left. He's just like, wouldn't have said that. That's not a good look. And I'm a Republican. Like I'm a young Republican. Even I know that shit ain't cool. So Trump hits Nikki Haley from the left. He was like, look, obviously slavery is the reason for the Civil War. Like it's the obvious answer. Like not like that 3 paragraphs of bullshit Nikki Haley said, and I was like, "Yikes, dude!" Like even he on that. Like,
and again, like I'll be first to admit, like last week we talked about this. Like I was just like, I can't imagine what Donald Trump would say. You know what? I couldn't imagine that he would say this. In all honesty.
By the way, in the moment, he'd have fucked that up. He'd have fucked it up. And you know how I know that? Because of what he said right now, right?
Yes,
like,
yeah.
That's how I know, right? Like people were like, "Oh, it's obviously slavery," and he was like, "Oh, okay, it was obviously slavery. Cool. That's what I'm gonna say on a stump speech. I'm a fucking nail it, right?" And he did, right? Like in fair is fair. He embarrassed the shit out of her. However, he says, "quote," talking about the Civil War, "quote, so many mistakes were made. See, there was something that I think could have been negotiated. To be honest with you." I think you could have negotiated that. All the people died. So many people died. Trump says that you could have negotiated the Civil War. Anybody want to take a guess as to what his negotiating tactic would have been? You guys could just keep having slaves. It's cool.
So I'm going to take so first of all, what he doesn't understand, by the way, is that like, in a way, they did try to negotiate their way out of the Civil War in Congress. Like they were trying to pass abolitionist bills in Congress, and the southern states were getting really pissed off, and that's what eventually led to secession. So again, like, good job, Donald Trump, you fucking moron. By the way, the thing that's so funny about what he said is he's suggesting somehow that Lincoln purposefully didn't try to negotiate a solution to the Civil War.
Right.
Because he knew that if he did, he wouldn't have the same like this grandiose image that we have of Abraham Lincoln as a former president. So somehow Abraham Lincoln thinks 200 years in the future is like, you know what, if I'm going to be really remembered as being one of the great American presidents, and also not live past the resolution of this, I got to go to war. We got to fight.
It's the only thing I can do. It's amazing, right? Like this idea that, like, what the fuck would he have negotiated? That the South keeps having slaves?
Probably. That probably would have been.
But really think about it, right? Like that's the obvious point, right? But that the South could keep having slaves, they would continue to be more and more and more profitable, thus lopsiding the country. Right? Mm-hmm. I think it's deeper than that. I think that his idea of negotiating, and look, and I know this because I talked about this a long time ago. I took a class in college, right, where they talked about negotiating tactics, right? And Donald Trump, this is way before he was president. Donald Trump was one of the examples of negotiating tactics, right? Because he's a very famous person who negotiates business deals at the time. And like there's a number of different types of tactics, like, basically like the Tip O'Neill, we come to the middle, you're a little pissed off, but you get a lot of what you wanted. I'm a little pissed off, but I got a lot of what I wanted. That's what a real compromise is, right? That's a real general negotiating. Trump's like documented way of negotiating is, I get everything, you get nothing, right? Which is why, like, when he signs contracts with people, he just breaks the contract and doesn't pay them, right?
Right, and I'm just gonna outspend you into submission, essentially.
Right, or just bloviate until you get tired and walk away, right? Like that type of thing. So he's an all or nothing negotiator. My guess, and I don't think, because he's obviously not saying, well, he should have negotiated like, we just go to war and fucking kill all the people in South. No, of course not. That's his constituency, right? Like those are those guys. He would have probably just said, we're just gonna do what the South said, and we're just gonna all have slavery again. Like on the side of the South.
Look at all the money they're making. They're doing something right.
They're
smart business people.
He was like, we're gonna implement slavery back into the North, right? Like that's what he would have done. So like again, I need people to stop talking about Joe Biden being a brain-addled idiot. There is a brain-addled idiot in this race. It's Donald Trump. Like, he's not aware half the time of what he's talking about. And then when he is somewhat clear, he says insane things that I guess he truly believes. So if you believe that the Civil War could have been negotiated, what's a negotiation? Like, it's either slavery continues in the South and the North doesn't have any power because all the economic power is in the South, or you believe that he would have negotiated that slavery goes countrywide, or the third one, which is equally terrible, all the states that want to secede, they can secede, it's fine, and then they continue slavery too.
And by the way, too, like it's not like they met at the table and were like, hey, if you don't do this, we're going to succeed. And they're just like, well, we're not doing it. All right, we're going to succeed. Like, no, a hard line was drawn basically by the Union saying, hey, like slavery is going away, whether you like it or not. Figure this shit out. And the South is like, well, we don't want to be part of a country that doesn't let us own black people. Right. So we're going to leave.
Yeah.
So.
And look,
it's not even a negotiation. I mean, negotiation can help resolve it after the fact, perhaps. And eventually that is what happened because the North was kicking the shit out of the South and was like, hey, maybe you better negotiate the end of the war. Yeah, and they were like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, negotiate your fucking
tired of dying. Yeah.
You negotiate your fucking surrender, buddy. Or we'll send Sherman down there to burn down Atlanta again. We're not fucking around.
We're going to send him to Charlottesville. How you like that?
Yeah, exactly.
You bastards.
Like, oh, this is a lovely city. Be a shame if someone lit it on fire. That's what I do. Sherman wasn't fucking around. So yeah, like the idea of negotiating the Civil War, again, that clip of like Joe Rogan being a total sycophant and being like, oh, Joe Biden thinks that, we didn't win the war in 1812 because we didn't have airports or whatever. Oh, what an idiot. And turns out Trump actually said the shit. Like,
yeah.
Hey, Joe Rogan. I know you're a big time listener of our show. Like, hey, why don't you talk about this one? You cool with this? Right? Like, surely it should be fine, right? That a presidential candidate is cool with talking about negotiating the Civil War, a war of owning people. Surely that should be fine, right? No, get the fuck out of here, dude. Like, again, Liz Cheney makes the best point here, which is what we are saying. Which part of the Civil War could have been negotiated? The slavery part? The secession part? Whether Lincoln should have preserved the Union? Questions from a member of the GOP, the party of Lincoln, who have endorsed Donald Trump. How can you possibly defend this? There it is. Hey, spoiler alert. They're not really the party of Lincoln.
No, not anymore. Maybe they used to be, but they're not anymore. Because they got all the old shitty Democrats from that made the Civil War happen.
Yeah. The modern Democrats are the party of Lincoln. They are. They just are 100%. And if you don't think the parties have changed, I feel like you need a basic lesson in history. I'm not here to give it to you, but I look forward to your stupid comments on YouTube and or TikTok. like it's just unbelievable.
Spoiler alert, the Republicans were tired of getting the shit kicked out of them in Congress when Democrats had control of the House of Representatives for like 50 years in a row. And they're like, man, this fucking sucks. Hey, Southern Democrats who are racist as fuck, we'll tolerate the racism. How about you come join the Republicans? And they're like, bet, like as long as we can be racist, well, that's all we really want.
Look, it's what gets us up in the morning, and right? And they have yet to change, and it is going to be their party's downfall, which is enjoyable to watch. Actually, let's take another quick break and come right back. Okay, next up, experts say Jack Smith's dramatic new proof is so overwhelming that reluctant witnesses may decide to flip. Oh, this isn't good. Former President Donald Trump refused to stop the violent act on the U.S. Capitol. And now people in his own team are confirming that. Not good. Dan Scavino actually came out this week, said that basically, like, no, Trump was, like, not even interested in calling the National Guard, like, at all. They're like, hey, man, Capitol's burning, bro. Like, shit ain't good. And he's like, meh, don't care. Yeah, look.
I believe the exact quote from Trump was, we don't need no water, let that motherfucker burn, was what he said in response.
Yeah, absolutely. Burn, motherfucker, burn. Like, he didn't care. Look, if this is the case, if this headline is not a bunch of bullshit and actually Jack Smith has some further documentation on this guy just not giving a fuck on January 6th, he's fucked. He's fucked. Because his big argument has been, and it's a terrible one, is that Nancy Pelosi could have called the National Guard. It's like, nah, dude, you're the president. They called you. Hey, Mr. President, because, by the way, you're the ultimate authority. Mm-hmm. And you chose not to do anything. And you chose not to do anything for the same reason that we'll talk about Roger Stone later on. Okay? Like, and look, I'm happy. I'm happy that they have this evidence. I hope it is irrefutable evidence. I hope it's not just Dan Scavino. I hope it's multiple people are just like, yeah, dude. Like we asked him and he just did not give a fuck. So, look, his kids. If you remember, Donald Trump Jr. was like texting. I think it was Sean Hannity being like, can you tell my dad to please call the National Guard?
talk sense into my dad because I sure as shit can't.
Right. So even he knew that his dad wasn't doing anything. Which is wild, by the way, because these guys all knew what was going to likely happen, but he didn't tell his own son. Like his sons didn't know what was happening, right? He even kept that shit tight to the vest from them, and just was like, "Let it rock. I don't care." Because what they were hoping for is Pence would get killed, Romney would get killed, a bunch of Congress people would be killed, and it would be such pandemonium that they could have waltzed their way in and then been like, well, this shit already happened. Let's just move on. We need to heal as a nation. That's what they were hoping for. And it didn't. Instead, a lunatic lady got shot. And that didn't heal the nation, but it felt pretty good. I will never stop enjoying the fact that terrorist got killed. She's not a freedom fighter. She's a fucking terrorist. So, yeah, that's what they were hoping for. They were hoping in the chaos and in the mayhem and the violence and death that they would be able to just go, we need to just move forward and heal the nation. Let's not worry about the count. Clearly, this is corrupt. We can't trust it. Let's just move forward. Right? It's just the violent version of how George W. Bush got it. Oh, the numbers are too close. Let's just heal the nation. To quote George W. Bush, my dad said I get to be president. That's what he said. You look it up. It's a fucking wild statement from an adult man to say that.
Not just an adult man, but like a middle-aged man.
Yeah, like, dude. Like, you know, Like 45 years old. What the fuck is going on? My dad. I'm the eldest boy. My dad said I get to be the president.
I wonder, and I don't want to get too far off aside on this because the show's still playing jam-packed. I wonder what would have happened if Al Gore wasn't the vice president in 2000. Because the problem with Al Gore being there is that he has to keep everything like very above board, lest he look like he it hasn't the current government has it in the bag for the guy that they want to put in there. Like it would just be interesting to see like if Al Gore wasn't actually the sitting vice president at the time, if that would have changed anything with the Bush Gore thing.
It would have changed a lot because he wouldn't have been saddled to Clinton anyway.
Yeah,
right. Like
True.
that's a big part of it. Of like they talk as if like Al Gore was holding Monica's fucking hair while the shit was going on. Like, dude, it's utterly ridiculous. Like he was like, dude, I didn't know he was getting a blowjob. Like, what the fuck? What did I do? But if he wasn't attached to Clinton so tightly, yeah, you know what? By the way, if Bill Clinton didn't get busted for getting a blowjob, Al Gore would have waltzed in as vice president. Waltzed in.
I don't know if you guys remember, but we were doing pretty good. We're pretty good around the turn of the millennium. So
apparently, Bill Clinton does his best work being like that dude was like he was kicking ass and taking names. But yeah, no, I think if Al Gore wasn't vice president, I think that's a very true statement, right? Like you're right. Like you don't want to seem like you're using the levers of power, like you're leaning too heavily on them. So yeah, he's like, oh no, we can just do a recount in this county. Nah, yo, you do all of it. You do that entire state. Like no, fuck that. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but yeah, look. I'm rooting for Jack Smith, man. I really am. By the way, shout out to the person who used this picture at the top of this story. Yikes! That is. Trump looks like he's out of a Dr. Seuss novel. He looks awful. Just saying, he looks horrendous. Next up, this is all you, sir.
Yeah, a weird story kind of appeared out of nowhere this week. So it was discovered that Lloyd Austin, the Secretary of Defense, has been in the hospital since New Year's Day because he went in to have a minimally invasive procedure to Walter Reed. And then he was he had a complication from that and has been in intensive care for like the last week. And he finally came out of intensive care, I think yesterday, but he was still in the hospital as of today. And today we learned, like, it's come out that he actually was diagnosed with prostate cancer in December and has been getting treatments for that. But what's weird about it is that he didn't tell anybody. And notably not anyone at the White House. So basically Lloyd Austin was just kind of like off duty for basically a week, and nobody fucking knew in the chain of command outside of maybe his like direct deputies and stuff like that.
Yeah, but the White House.
It's a very weird situation.
Yeah, it's extremely weird. The only thing I can posit is I can't posit why you wouldn't tell the White House. That feels weird to me, right? That feels very weird. I don't know, embarrassment. I mean, there's nothing to be embarrassed about having.
Get over it. I mean, you're the fucking Secretary of Defense,
right? Like that. Like, and it's also nothing to be embarrassed.
Yeah, like if shit pops off, like they need to know where you are.
Right. So that's weird. Unless there's some sort of military thing that's happening that like maybe the White House doesn't know about, like that, like there's very few people know about, like inside the Department of Defense, like some top secret, like black book type of shit. And he's like, look, we can't afford to like let anyone else look in on this like while I'm out. Like it could be some weird shit like that. The only other thing I could think of is with how fucking much turmoil there is in government with Republicans and stuff like that, them wanting to like immediately throw a wrench in the works of like if he potentially had to step down of like who would be, I don't know. Like, would Republicans try to like throw a wrench in that? I mean, obviously Biden gets to just choose who he wants, but you know what I mean? Like, it could be some like weird political thing, but I think it's probably just, I hate to say it, but like this dude probably was doing some shit that was not cool. Like, my guess is this is some off the books military shit that they could not afford to let anybody else in on while he was sick. Like, they're just like, nope, unless this motherfucker dies, like we're not saying shit. Like, that's the only reason I can posit.
But again, like he has deputies.
Just go. He might just need to go.
Like he has deputies that could easily like run shit while he's like down and out for a little bit. Like that's not a problem.
Know. Maybe they don't know.
And I mean, again, it's a bad look when while he was in the hospital, like the U.S. carried out an attack against a Hezbollah official in Lebanon. Like that was a notable thing that happened last week as well. Yeah. That Austin may have been monitoring, or may have not have been, and so like Republicans in the House are calling for a formal inquiry, and that's actually like I don't think that's overreach. Like I think that we need to understand like what was going on here, and like you said, like Lloyd Austin might need to fall on his sword, because you can't just fucking again the cancer diagnosis aside, like you can't literally be in the hospital for a week and not have essentially your boss not know about it. Like,
no, it's not acceptable.
It's a weird, like it's not apples and oranges, but like imagine at your job if you went into the hospital for a week and just didn't tell your boss, and that shit would not fly.
Yeah, bro, I'm not saying anything. Don't worry about it. Like that's crazy. That's crazy town. Like, so I don't know. Lloyd Austin may need to go, but like the only thing I can lean on is like maybe that's some weird like off book shit that's going on, that like he kept like a tight circle on, or he had like tight reins on, and he was like, I cannot let anyone know that I'm not here because someone may see this. Like, that's the only thing I can think of. And by the way, not a good look either way. It's just not a good look.
No.
So like he probably needs to go. All right,
and by the way, I just want to point out before we move on to the next story. So like this is a Democrat scandal. Like this is what a Democratic scandal looks like. If someone doing like some shit that like doesn't look good, but you know is off the books. It's not Lloyd Austin spent fucking $200,000 on doors for his office at the Pentagon or things of that nature.
Right. And look, again, we don't know what it is. And again, we're both speculating. We don't know what it is. I'm speculating, but it may be nothing.
Yeah.
But it feels like a weird fucking situation for it to be nothing. Like it really does. Yeah. So he basically he put out the Pentagon put out a statement basically where he acknowledged that he was gone, but he didn't explain why he didn't tell anybody. And I feel like he's going to have to answer to that at some point. So yeah, and he should. By the way, he should.
Yeah.
And Republicans are 100% well within their right to be like, dude, what the fuck? Like, where were you? You're in Bolivia with your girlfriend? Like, what is happening here? Like, all right, Brad. You have been obsessed with the Epstein list.
Yeah.
Tell us.
Let me tell you.
Tell
you. Yeah, turns out that they did unleash at least some of the people that were on the list. I don't think the full client list, quote unquote, has been unveiled yet. But to your point, you know, we talked about last week. They did wait to make sure that they were, you know, vetting the information to make sure that it wasn't just like, hey, here's the pedophile list and here's the, you know, non-pedophile list or whatever. And the names on the list were names we pretty much already knew about. Bill Clinton was on that list. Donald Trump was on that list. Prince Andrew. Of course, Alan Dershowitz is on there. Got to know that. By the way, Alan Dershowitz had a real one in reaction to this story. Like he went on fucking Fox. And Jay, do you know whose fault it is that Alan Dershowitz is under scrutiny for being on the Epstein list? Do you know whose fault it is? I'll give you two guesses, and I'll see if you can get it.
Is it Hunter Biden?
No, it's not Hunter Biden. Who would Alan Dershowitz right now be blaming for anything going on negatively in the world of Alan Dershowitz?
Fuck off. Is it like Hamas? Yeah, bro. Yeah. Hamas is the reason you got busted trying to fuck kids on an island.
That's right. No, he left his pants on, Jay. That makes it not rape. Or sorry, left his underwear on.
I just like to do it through the hole, like to quote Alan Dershowitz. Look. This is a very complicated issue because people have taken to lacking all nuance on this. There are two very specific circles that this guy ran in, right? Epstein. Mm-hmm. He ran in the, hey, let me be around a bunch of rich, famous people, intellectuals and stuff like that. Totally innocent, right? And then he had the pedophile crew, right? Probably Alan Dershowitz. But maybe not, right? Maybe Alan Dershowitz is just an idiot. That's definitely possible, by the way. Definitely possible. And people keep meshing these two groups together, right? Mm-hmm. If you are doing dirty shit, you want to be put next to a bunch of rich, famous people not doing anything because then people go, well, I mean, like, I know Jeff Epstein, the New York financier, right? Like, he's fine. I've never seen anything. I've hung out with him. I've never seen anything. But you're not in the evil circle, dude. Like, you're not, right? Mm-hmm. That's the whole point. It's a clever move that scumbag people do. But the problem is, a lot of people go, you're on one list. That means you're on the list.
Guilt by association. Literally the definition of it. So
right, you cannot. However, may I read the single funniest thing that has come out of this?
Yes.
This is I guess from a deposition, which is where all these names are coming from. As a lawyer, hold on a second. Wait, are you telling me Stephen Hawking frequent the island for pleasure? Answer: yes. Jeffrey loved to have intellectuals visit the island so he could reward them for their hard work for humanity and for other darker reasons. Question: did Jeffrey ever talk about Stephen Hawking's proclivities? Kinks, basically. Is that what that means? Answer: here is a sentence you will likely never hear on this.
Believe it, bro.
This is a real fucking sentence. Answer: yes. He liked watching undressed midgets solve complex equations on a too high up chalkboard. Dude, come on.
Oh, shit.
Come on. Look, I don't care who you are. I'm not saying using the M word is okay. I'm just reading it. Dude, that's funny, man. That's fucking hilarious. What? Like, I sent this to Micah and Terrence goes, this is too weird to not be true. Like, it's too hyper specific to be made up. I agree with you. Oh my God. He liked to watch them solve complex equations on too high up of a chalkboard. That's fucking funny, man. I don't know where you see videos of that, but like, this guy has got a specific search on Pornhub. He's like,
I'm about to say if you ever needed any more proof that Rule 34 exists, like Stephen Hawking, one of one. Like, there's one guy that likes this, and it's him.
That's it. So look, again, even this, I don't know. I assume, just the way this is read, I assume that this, like when it says frequent the island for pleasures, I assume that's sleeping with women. Look. Are these, like, I mean, he's not sleeping with anybody, right? Like, Stephen Hawkins is not sleeping with anybody. However, that doesn't mean he's not, like, looking at women or who could potentially have been underage or stuff like that. God, I hope not. That's fucking gross. I don't know that every woman that was on the island was underage. I don't know. I mean, were the undressed midgets who solved complex equations on too high up chalkboards, were they in fact underage? I don't know. I do know this. This is still the funniest fucking thing I've ever read. Like, it is. It's the funniest thing I've ever read. And I hope those people were not underage because that's fucking not cool.
I don't see how they could solve the complex math problems if they were underage. They'd have to be.
Think about it.
To be adults.
Think about it.
So
these people definitely went to college, right? Come on now.
Yes.
Dude, come on. Like, look, here's what I need. I need one of these women who was potentially working on a too high up chalkboard. I need them to come out and be like, I was one of the people. I'm 35 years old. Like, come on, man. That's crazy. It's just fucking wild. Just absolutely wild. Here's a story we're not going to talk about because it's not on the docket, but I just noticed the link. Trump's lawyer Alina Habba, she basically said like,
"Oh yeah, we should have had this on the docket. Too much shit been happening.
She basically
Too much shit
was
been
like,
happening.
Listen, Brett Kavanaugh owes Donald Trump for getting him on the Supreme Court. Like, so of course he's going to probably do the right thing, right?
She didn't say that in so many words, but she definitely said like, hey, like we're pretty confident the Supreme Court's going to come through. After all, Brett Kavanaugh, Donald Trump fought for him. Like he fought to get him on the court. Like I'm just like, remember those halcyon days when, in the wake of hyper court partisanship, John Roberts had to get out there with his bulletproof robe and calm the masses and say, listen, everybody, there's no thing as a Trump judge or an Obama judge or a Bush judge or a Clinton judge. They're all federal judges and not in the tank for anyone in particular. Like they're all just federal judges. It doesn't matter who appointed them. We're all doing this very important work, and all we're looking at is the law. And then fucking Alina Habba, the fucking dumbest lawyer on the face of the planet, has to basically go and just undermine that notion for all to see.
Yeah, let me read the quote exactly. I think it should be a slam dunk in the Supreme Court. I have faith in them. People like Kavanaugh, who the president fought for, who the president went through hell to get into place, he'll step up. Right? He better step up. He fucking better. Better.
Yeah, or what? Or what, Brett Kavanaugh? Yeah.
Right. Like if I'm Brett Kavanaugh,
we're gonna take your judgeship away. Good luck with all that.
No, you're not. You're not. I'm gonna go ahead.
I'm here for life.
Go ahead and chill. I'm gonna have a beer. You like beer? I like beer.
I like beer. We also didn't talk about the article that came out about Clarence Thomas flying back in the early 2000s happened to be seated next to a Republican lawmaker on a flight back to DC, and just casually kind of dropped. He's like, man, it's awful hard to be a Supreme Court justice on this paltry $225,000 a year salary. Like if we didn't get more money or other incentives, we might some of me and my colleagues might have to go to the private sector and do other stuff to get paid more money. And Republican donors were just like, I got you, fam. Don't worry about it. Yep, here's all these trips and jets and stuff like that to help supplement that little income, that meager peasant sum that you're bringing in, Clarence Thomas.
Yeah, like it's hilarious, right? Like this idea that these guys are suffering, like, oh my god. But like the second you become a Supreme Court justice, or even actually before you become a Supreme Court justice for the Republicans, you are set up with your own billionaire, and they shepherd you right through, and they stick by you, and they give you whatever the fuck you want as long as you play.
Funnily enough, this conversation that was reported took place a couple of years before Clarence Thomas met Harlan Crow. So maybe he didn't have his assigned billionaire yet, or this might have been the birth of the billionaire Big Brother program that the Republicans have for federal judges. Yeah,
I mean, look, makes sense. It seems to be working out just fine. I wonder who Brett Kavanaugh has. I wonder if that's also a massive alcoholic. So yeah, never can tell.
And by the way, like I'm not suggesting that like Clarence Thomas isn't correct. Like, could a Supreme Court justice like leave the Supreme Court and make triple the salary in the private sector tomorrow? Yes, absolutely, 100%. But maybe so Clarence Thomas, what I would say to you is if the money is the important thing, maybe a Supreme Court justice position just isn't for you. Maybe you need to go find another job and let somebody else sit in that chair that actually wants to do the work.
Yeah. Like today. Don't even wait.
Yeah.
Like today. Leave today. Yesterday, even. Like, it's fine. We'd love that. Take you and your fucking
I would really love, and I don't think the liberal judges on the court are hiding as much as the conservative ones are. I would just really love to see them put their shit out on the table. And just be like, look, like here's my finances, like here's what I'm doing. Like I would just love to see the disparity between what the liberal judges are doing in their extracurriculars and what the conservative justices are doing in their extracurriculars. Because I have a feeling that the disparity is pretty wide.
100%. I guarantee you it is. All right, let's take a quick break and come right back. Okay. The new GOP line. This is hilarious. The January 6th terrorists, insurrectionists, are now hostages. Brad,
yes,
explain to me why you, for some reason, as a un-American person, why you believe that these people are in fact not hostages.
So this actually started on the campaign trail with Trump over the weekend, where he was imploring Iowa crowds to challenge Joe. Like, have you heard the audio from this, by the way? Like, no, it's really fucking weird. Oh my God. Like, so like he was railing on about, like the January 6th hostages, like they're holding them hostage in federal jail. Come on, Joe, release the hostages, Joe. Come on, Joe. Like he was literally saying it like that. It was very creepy, very, very creepy. And so he was doing this shit, and not even 24 hours later, Elise Stefanik, who is the House whip for the Republican Party, was on Meet the Press, echoing that same label, that same verbiage that Trump was using, saying the January 6th hostages. Now, I have to remind you that the people who are in prison as a result of January 6th are not just being held indefinitely by the federal government. They are either pending trial and either can't afford their bail or have not been extended bail, or they've been convicted of a crime by a jury of their peers in federal court.
Yeah, like a hostage, right? Like a hostage.
Yes, that's exactly what a hostage is. Yep, you nailed it. Perfect. Good job.
I saw the movie Executive Decision. Like, yeah, that's exactly how it went. They got him in the plane and they were like, "You have been convicted of a crime. You'll stay here." Like, yeah. Okay.
So and so this is laying the groundwork for, again, like they're trying to retcon January 6th as much as they can. And Joe Biden even said it himself. Like they're trying to, like his line, I can't remember what the exact line was that he campaigned with, but he was like, that they denied, they tried to rewrite the 2020 election. Now they're trying to rewrite history, essentially, is what he said. And by the way, if you needed if you had any confusion or question about whether Trump would pardon every one of these motherfuckers,
you would
come assuming the presidency, that would be his actual day one job is to get all those dudes pardoned and get them out of jail.
And look, by the way, that should be your number one reason for not allowing this. Got to get back in office.
Because, well, Jay, where else are you going to get your brown shirts from if you can't bust these dudes out of prison? So
because they'll do it again. They'll do it again.
Yep.
Like you think he wouldn't let out what Oath Keeper guy?
Stuart Rhodes, yeah.
Stuart Rhodes, yeah, of course. That's what those guys are banking on. If Trump does not get reelected, there is going to be a whole lot of crying and wailing and gnashing of teeth because those guys are going to be fucking sad because Joe Biden ain't letting them the fuck out. And after another 4 years, nobody's going to give a fuck to some Republican candidate. You think they're going to put their political life on the line by going, yeah, I'm going to release the January 6 people? No, man, that's like 5 years, 6 years out from that shit. That's not my fucking problem.
And by the way, Stefanik and Trump are using that language while there are actual hostages being held in Israel by Hamas, a conflict that the U.S. is tangentially involved in. There are actual, I don't have this been confirmed. Like the hostages that Israeli forces are holding, are they all military personnel?
No, they probably are. They probably are.
Okay.
I mean, the Israeli government isn't going to be holding Palestinian citizens. They just bomb them. They don't. Hold them. Come on, that's crazy.
Gotcha. No need to take up a jail cell.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why don't we just kill innocent people? We don't need to. Guys, we don't need to be feeding them. Come on, that's crazy. So it's this whole idea of January 6th insurrectionists being hostages is one, ridiculous. Two, you can just go ahead and join them. Like, you could just go down and just stay there forever. It's fine. You guys could record a new album. I don't like this sort of revisionist history about these guys. We can watch tapes of these guys and what they did. These are not the people that are down there that are still locked up and stuff like that. These aren't the aimlessly walking dumb grandma from January 6th who's like, I'm in the Capitol. Like, they're not arresting that lady. They should have. They fucking should have. Look, I'm an asshole about it. Every one of these motherfuckers should be doing serious jail time, right? Every last one of them. But I'm not running the government, okay? If I was running the Department of Justice, everybody, this is going to be a fucking problem for you. You ain't seeing mama on fucking Christmas this year. You going to fucking prison. But the people that are there are the people who are on tape doing dirty shit, dude. Beating up security guards, trying to steal shit out of offices, putting their feet up on the desk, real dirty shit that they were doing, smearing poop on the walls, classy. Like, these people are there because they need to be there. These are not people who
By the way,
walking around.
A lot of these so-called hostages pled guilty. And we can have a separate discussion about the plea bargaining process, especially in federal courts, how it's kind of fucked up. But a lot of these people did not even want to stand trial. They're just like, yeah, like, I did it. Like, let me get as good a sentence as I can, and move on with my life. Because, like what is my defense going to be? It's not going to be anything. So I just thought that it was notable to kind of bring this up. I really hope that there is a universal pushback against that rhetoric. But I think that you're just going to see it start to take hold. Like, it's the domino effect that we talked about last week of, like, once Trump rolls something out, like takes it for a test drive and doesn't get his fucking hand bit, then you see the Republican Party, or at least that wing of the Republican Party, adopt that kind of language en masse. So
absolutely ridiculous. They're poor them.
Speaking of ridiculous, holy shit, I can't wait to hear you talk about this fucking story.
Dude, this story is fucking crazy. Holy shit. I read this. I was sitting in my car today, waiting on something, and I read this story. I was parked, and I was like, I saw the headline. I was like, that's not true. That's too crazy. That's too crazy of a story. And then I saw, I was like, it's from The Hill. I was like, okay, this is like too crazy.
You read the story. I've heard the audio.
Dude.
I've heard the audio. I'll talk about it after you lay the groundwork for the story, because it is batshit.
Okay. So Trump team argues assassination of rivals is covered by presidential immunity. I'm sorry, what country do we live in? That's fucking crazy. Former president.
So Trump is in DC appeals court right now.
Yes.
This is the appeals court that happens after so Chutkan said, yeah, you don't have presidential immunity, so you can face charges for January 6th. But yeah, and they appealed this. Now they're doing the DC Court of Appeals. This was the case that Jack Smith wanted to hotshot to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court was like, no, you have to go through the normal appeals process first, and then we'll hear it. So this is that hearing, basically. This is that hearing before the appeals court for the Trump team to basically try to convince the DC appeals court that Trump had absolute presidential immunity for anything that he did while he was president.
Yeah, insane, right? So here's how it gets super crazy. They have a conversation that is so fucking wild, right? So his lawyer, Sawyer, basically is having this back and forth with the judge. The judge is like, listen, this article unfortunately doesn't have like the direct.
I'll lay it out better because, like I said, I've heard the audio. So basically, the judge to Trump's lawyer was like, "I'm going to lay out a hypothetical situation for you. Okay, let's say that.
Keep going. I'm going to see if I can find the actual direct quote. It's crazy.
Let's say the president, and not Trump, but just a president, says this, like they direct SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival. Okay, while they're the president, so they're giving a direct order as under their purview as the president. They instruct a Navy SEAL team to take out a political opponent. And let's say in this hypothetical that that person is not either found guilty of an impeachment or removed from the Senate. Let's say that doesn't happen.
Right. Can
this person not be charged after they're out of the White House for this crime, which is obviously ordering someone to murder somebody?
That is correct.
And the Trump attorney was like, he would have to be impeached and convicted in the first, because that's what that's what's out there. So
right. Okay. So here is the actual exchange. This is fucking nuts. This is the judge. Your position is that he can't be prosecuted for that unless he's impeached. Sawyer, Trump's lawyer, says, quote, yup. You're in the courtroom. What the fuck? Yup. It's in the fucking prairie, you asshole. Yup. As long as it's an official act. Could a president order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival? That's an official act, an order to SEAL Team 6. He would have to be and would speedily be impeached and convicted before the criminal prosecution, Sawyer began. And then Pan cut him off. But if he weren't, there would be no criminal prosecution, no criminal liability for that. And then he fucking obfuscates or whatever. And she stops him again and says, I ask you a yes or no question. Could a president who orders SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival who was not impeached, would he be subject to criminal prosecution? Sawyer responds, if he were impeached and convicted first. And so she cut him off and goes, so your answer is no. Right?
Yeah. And he kept saying, and he kept trying to go back and say, no, my answer is a qualified yes if he was impeached and convicted. And he did that twice, and she literally had to stop him and was like, I specifically am asking you in this hypothetical, if that president was not impeached and convicted, let's say, could he be criminally charged? And your answer to that is no. Like she basically laid that out for him. That is an insane thought process to have in this scenario.
Absolutely fucking crazy. So
one of this kind of
his rivals, dude.
Yeah, and this kind of ties back to a theory that the Trump team is trying to posit, where they say that because again of the myriad of theories that they have to try to argue why Trump shouldn't have to stand trial for this shit, that somehow because Trump was acquitted in the Senate, that double jeopardy applies and he can't be charged again with a criminal crime related to the same context, not understanding that the United States Senate is not a criminal court. And the concept of double jeopardy is it corresponds that you shouldn't be in jeopardy twice for the same crime that could send you to prison. The Senate, even if they convicted him, would not be sending Donald Trump to jail. They would just be removing him as the president. It's not a criminal court. Therefore, Donald Trump not in jeopardy, as the double jeopardy statute pretends.
I'm not sure that they understand the basics of the law, dude. Like, I'm just not, or that they assume we, as people like watching this shit remotely,
right,
that we don't understand. Like,
well, and to be fair, his supporters.
You tell me
his supporters probably don't understand. Oh, they do. And I guess they're. I don't know what they're trying to do, because like they're not going to slide this past any judge unless you're talking about like the most partisan judge that you could possibly find that's willing to just completely turn a blind eye to the law to get their dude through. And even on the Supreme, like even this Supreme Court is not gonna go up and be like, yeah, no, like he's got to be impeached first before, otherwise you can't try him criminally, even if he's not the president anymore for this thing that he did. Like that was obviously illegal.
Doesn't make any sense, because what you're saying is, if you're essentially saying that he's a king, right?
Yeah.
Well, because all you have to do is control enough levers of government, and then you get to just do whatever crimes you want. Could he just take bribes? Could he just shoot people? Well, like, oh, well, I mean, he's got enough votes in the Senate to keep him there. So yeah, that's a king.
Yeah, as long as it's an official act, it's all above board apparently. As long as you're doing it through the levers of government, there's no problem here.
Right, but by the way, what you're saying is like you're a king with like a little bit more help, right? Because if you have control of the House, you have the control of the Senate in large enough numbers, and you just said, "Cool, no big deal, guys. We're just going to start murdering." It's cool if I send SEAL Team 6 to just murder Democrats, and Democrats are sitting right there, and it's like, dude, there's like we're 30% of the population of the Congress. Like, dude, that's not cool. And he's like, sorry, bro, it's an official act. Don't go home tonight.
Yeah, or he tells Mike Pompeo to like, hey, Mike Pompeo, get on a plane and fly to Saudi Arabia and tell them to, and collect $3 billion for me from Saudi Arabia, and I will make sure that this Congress votes on this bill that will help them out in some way, shape, or form. Like according to his attorneys, that would be completely above board because he's telling his Secretary of State to go collect this money from the Saudi government. So
again, you guys don't actually believe in democracy. You actually don't believe in the government. You say you believe it. The government's corrupt, and watch us try to corrupt it. Like that is what you do.
That's why I really hate hearing from the right, like when you complain about like the fact that Republicans are inherently anti-democratic, and they tell you, well, if you don't like it so much, just leave. Now, how about you leave, dude? Like you're the one that's not fucking standing up. Yeah.
I mean, to make the argument that it was okay to assassinate your political rivals is insane. It is that is insane. And look, she gave that example not as a gotcha, because it's the most extreme example that your logic should go, well, not that. And then she could go, okay, well, not that. Then why is this acceptable? That's the actual move of that logic statement, right? If this extreme thing, like when people debate stuff, they go, well, that's an extreme example. Yeah, the point is, if your logic is so sound, then your logic should travel all the way to the extreme. And the point is to point out how unsound it is and to make you go, well, fuck. Okay, I don't mean that. Let's cut it back and go, okay, now let's start at a lower point that seems a little bit more logical, right? The prime example of that is when people go, okay, Second Amendment means I can have any gun I want. Do you think regular citizens should have nuclear weapons? Republicans will go, yes. That's how insane their logic is. Right? Which
I should be allowed to own a Sherman tank and drive it around town if I want to. God damn it!
Yeah, why not? Right? My freedom. That's my freedom. Right? The point of making that argument, and someone will go, well, that's a stupid argument, but it isn't. It's designed for you to go, oh no, I don't think people should have nuclear weapons. Okay, do you think people should have fucking surface to air missiles? Well, no, that seems ridiculous. What about smaller rocket launchers? Well, no, that seems ridiculous. Grenade launchers? No, that seems ridiculous. Mortars? No, that seems ridiculous. And then you start to go,
cool.
All right, then
cool. So there should be a limit to what the Second Amendment allows. Cool. Thanks for agreeing with me. Yes.
Shall not be infringed. Well, maybe it should be infringed a little bit. Like, okay. Because that's the point, is to challenge your brain to go, yeah, okay, maybe I'm being a little ridiculous. I'm being a little reckless. Let me come down. Let's talk about what the logic is. The logic here is, dude, is it cool to just kill your opponents? Absolutely. Okay, then we're fucked because your logic doesn't make any sense coming all the way through.
Okay, that's the end of the free portion for this week's episode of Look Forward. Make sure you go to lookforwardshow.com/premium. Sign up for premium content. It's only $5 a month or $50 for the full year.